What is up, my friends? Welcome to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 8 to 15, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 17th year of marriage. So yep, I am in the thick of it, the adventure of fatherhood. I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fatherhood matters. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. I believe the role of the father is to serve, guide, provide, protect, and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my cousin, Paul Nootbaar. From a young age, he did not have parents that were there for him. So my brother and I have adopted him as a brother, and he was on episode 11 of the Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, ranked in the top 5 most listened to, really because he shared deep struggles, very vulnerable about life growing up in group homes and experience of his mother dying when he was very young. For much of his adult life, he did not want kids, but now he has a son that is 3 months old, and we dig into the realities of fatherhood, especially when he did not have a biological father that was consistent and stable there for him. Enjoy this conversation with my brother, Paul. We're trying to get rid of a cricket right now. I wonder if when we start talking, he'll get nervous. Oh, got him, dude.
Sorry, dude.
With the slipper.
Lord, put the slipper. Lord, forgive me. Dude, you didn't think I was going to get him, huh?
No
you
way.
never find a cricket.
No, you hit a wall and then he pops out of a crack.
I still have him on the other side.
Oh my gosh. Classic.
All right, we just committed murder.
All right, here we are. Another episode, Fatherhood Field Notes. And one that, it's a second episode. So this is my cousin, brother, Paul.
Cousin brother from another mother.
We had an episode, so this is going to be the normal Ask the Regular questions. Paul had his first baby. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Baby Bodie.
Bodie Elwood Nootbaar.
Such a
born on
badass name.
February 1st. Yeah, that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is, there's a lot of new dads out there and a lot of men who have kids, and there's a lot that goes with it. And I know with how vulnerable and honest you are, that it would be perfect to have a son, 3 months in and to sit down and talk fatherhood. But before we do, if somebody hadn't listened to the episode you and I did originally, it was a heavy episode. It's like the top 5 listened to. And I think just because the rawness of it.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy duty. It was kind of wild to talk about some of that stuff too, because it was a lot of things that I had buried down. But just getting some of that stuff out, man, like I slept better that night,
Yeah, you called me the next day and you said that you slept better from getting some things off your chest that you actually hadn't said before.
Yeah, your subconscious mind is pretty wild, man.
So if you were to give a recap, somebody can go back and listen to it, but what are some of the highlights that were big in that episode for you to share?
I think kind of like if I had to pick one highlight of it would be to kind of make your mess your message, I had somewhat of a messy life. Chaotic and just full of just the unknowns, constantly moving, bouncing around from group homes to group homes. And mom died when I was young. Turned out it was from domestic violence, and then dealing with learning all that as a teenager, that your dad was the cause of your mom's death. That was kind of a lot to take in. And then still to this day, I'm 35 now and I still have a relationship with the guy. It's not a good one, but it's a relationship show. So, just kind of a lot. Maybe if you want to, before you dive into this, go recap. I think it was episode 11 on your podcast.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes and I'll say it at the beginning.
Nobody reads show notes, dude. Do you guys read show notes?
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some heavy stuff. So you just shared, the big highlights from it. highlights is a weird word to use, but big. And so you said you're 35, and with a 3-month-old, which is relatively normal in this day and age. My brother and I have pretty much adopted you as a brother. So like I always introduce you as a brother, but just for people to understand, it's like your mom passed away when you were a little kid. And I remember, 5 years ago, you saying you didn't know if you want to bring a kid into this world, which I think a lot of people with your story will say. And so was there a transition for you where you thought, okay, this world, though my worldview of it can be kind of dark, I think I could do different? Or what was the mindset or the switch for you to go, okay, my story wasn't ideal, but I still want to have a kid?
Well, there was a few things. One thing is being 35, and my wife and I have been together for, we're coming up on 16 years of dating one another, and been married for 5. It's like we've done everything else that you can do as a couple. We've traveled all over the world, and we've partied, and we've laid low, and we've lived a simple life. And it was like, what's the next step? Almost kind of feeling selfish in a way of not expanding our family. And another thing was like, I didn't want to bring kids into this world because it's such if you get caught up on things, or not even caught up on things, just it's kind of messy around us. It's a sick, we live in a messed up world, and it's easy to just pay attention to how nasty it is and think like, why would I want to bring a kid into this? But I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Ryan Mickler, or I might have even read it somewhere. But anyways, they were saying in order for the world to change, every good man needs to raise like 5 good young men, or young women, but specifically young men
That's powerful.
To make a huge difference in the world in order for things to change, to kind of offset this balance that we have that is just steadily decline. Like everybody says, make America great again or whatever. It's like, I can't think of in my history when anything's even gotten better. It just steadily continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But they're saying, if you have 5 kids or 1, you're raising these young men that are coming from somebody who has value and a good moral compass, that's the impact that ripple effect that those.
So was that a trigger for you to want to have a kid? Was partially that?
Yeah, partially that, and then it's something that my wife really wanted. She really wanted to be a mom, and now seeing her with a kid. Today was actually the first day I had heard her say my son. She was doing a meeting with you this morning, and she's like, "Oh, my son." I kind of stuck him in the back. And it just kind of melts my heart, man. Like seeing her with him makes me wish I had done this a lot sooner because of the fact that she's gone so long not knowing what it feels like to be a mother. Now she does. And I'm like, damn, she should have had this a long time ago.
Why is that seems emotional to you? Why?
Because it's probably the most important thing that she's ever done, and I feel like I'm the one that held it up. Like she probably would have been down to have kids a long time ago, and I was always like, no. I've kind of lived not a selfish life because I'm pretty generous with my time and my things and my money, but selfish in a way where it's like I can do whatever I want when I want, and I kind of like that lifestyle, and that's been kind of a something I need to adapt to. Now it's like, all right, plan on being late to everything. You're gonna be forgetting things more, and you can't just jam out and go surf whenever you want, or go ride your dirt bike. You got to really kind of plan ahead.
Yeah. Do you think you were ready 10 years ago though?
Fuck no. No way. Hell no, man. 10 years ago, I'm 35. I was 25. No. I don't think I was ready now, but at least now I'm like, I own a business. I own a house. I'm there. My son has security, and that's kind of a huge thing rather than some wild ass kids getting pregnant.
Yeah. So I want to come back to the security thing in a minute, but When before you had your kid, you were very much, worked with teens, helped people out, working on building like a place for teens and people to learn to do work. You've always been very generous and passionate about those things. And maybe a week, maybe not even a week, whenever you came home from the hospital, you and I are standing in your kitchen having a little glass of whiskey or something. And I mean, this is very quick. I was in the house for maybe 2 minutes, said our hellos, and we're in there. And I asked you something about how it felt, all right, man, how's it feel? You're a dad now. And you just like, with complete conviction, looked at me and said, everything's different now. Everything has changed. But it was from a place of maturity and knowledge and something inside of you. Do you remember that moment? Or do you remember that feeling of everything's changed? Yeah, I remember
that feeling, and that feeling hit as soon as I found out Kim was pregnant. I was like, damn, like so excited, and then like that oh shit moment where you're like, my life's never going to be the same and it's totally unknown. Like I got lots of kids around me and nieces and nephews, but it's always like, all the fun, none of the responsibility and actually being a parent. Like I can rattle your kids up with Red Bull and send them home if I want, where it's like there's no backing out of, I just keep telling myself there are no do-overs, you get one chance to be a dad.
Okay. So the scaredness or nervousness wasn't because of the lack of freedom you would have. Was it a lack of belief that you had what it takes?
Just the unknown, it's uncharted territory, it's like, it was so unknown to me. I wasn't raised by a good father, so I didn't know. And that was the thing, like I even called my dad because I started freaking out and I asked him, I'm like, where did you learn to be such an abusive person? Like was your dad abusive and it's just something that you passed down, or is this something that's hereditary and that
Were you scared?
Fuck yeah, I was so scared because the answer I got was no, I had a great dad and my mom was great. They never were abusive to me or anything like that. So then the wheels start turning like, oh, is this hereditary? Like, is this something I'm just going to lose my noodle one day and start beating on my family? And so those thoughts started racing. But the main thing, it gave everything in life had a purpose, like everything, to what car am I going to buy so that my family is safe? As well as still be a badass fun car, so and then what am I going to do for work? My job I don't like very much, but it provides. But it was just the sense of like going out to work, knowing that I'm not paying for the next vacation, that I'm paying for basically my son's security. So where I hope that someday, when I pass, that he has something left behind that's of value, not in just tangibles, but as a good legacy to leave behind. So you start educating yourself on things that are that are good in a good father, and it was just such an eye opener. And then having the kid was like, there's nothing that can prepare you for that moment, man. It's insane.
So wild.
Dude, it's so wild, and you're like, tell yourself, oh, I'm not going to look, this shit scares me, it grosses me out, and then your buddies start harassing you, oh, she's going to poop and this and that, and you just get all psyched out, but then when you're there, it's like tunnel vision, man. It's like all right.
It's amazing.
It really is amazing,
incredible,
man. It's wild, and I just got such a better appreciation for my wife.
Oh my gosh,
what she was able to do, and dude, the pain that she went through. Like she did a natural birth, like where she was in so much pain. They finally asked her after like 4 or 5 hour labor, like, do you want something to take the edge off? And she's like, yeah, like I'll take it, give it to me. But wait, what is it? She said, oh, fentanyl. And she's like, no, I'm good, you know, because that goes right to the baby's going to come out fucking loaded, you know. So she toughed it out, you know. And if it wasn't for a few of the nurses in the hospital, man, I don't know how we would have done it, because they were just so encouraging, and all the decisions she was making, some were questioning it, and others would whisper in her ear, you know, that she's doing the right thing, like for her kid, like she's doing the right thing. So
mad respect for moms out there,
dude. Yeah, that just speak up when it's, you could tell it was probably taboo for them to speak their peace of mind when they're pushing vaccines and different stuff.
Yeah, more just meant like the whole birthing process for your wife. You know, you see all the moms who give birth to a baby, and it is next level. So you said another word, you said the same word again, security. So I want to come back to that in a minute, but I want to go back to the conversation of you and your dad. So he had good parents. He turned out to be not such a great dude.
Well, he was adopted at a young age.
So he doesn't know his actual parents.
He does, but he didn't know them until later in life. But he was adopted at such a young age. Like, I don't think there was anything that really could have gone down that would have stuck with him forever.
So I want to ask you something that I don't know if it'll be hard or not, but for you, there was a switch, like immediately, right? You find out your wife's pregnant, there was a switch. You see your wife give birth to your child, there's a switch. You come home in your secure, nice car, bring your kid to your home.
Picked up a guy stranded on the side of the freeway.
Yep, still helping people even on the way home
from the hospital. There was a guy ran out of gas, and he was like in a really dangerous spot on the highway. So I pulled over and gave him a ride.
Yeah, you'll help anybody anywhere. But I want to ask you this. There's a switch that went off for you. Do you think that switch went off for your dad when you were born? And I know that's hard maybe to think about.
Yeah, for sure, dude, for sure. And
so you think that there was?
Yeah. It's so funny you say this, because Aunt Susan, our aunt, sent me a package for my... No, I don't. It wasn't for my birthday, but just sent me a package the other day, and there's a picture of me and my dad, and I'm probably 4 months old, and he's clear-eyed, and he's sober, and he's happy. And I'm happy, and you can see that it's just, yeah, the switch definitely flipped, you know? And
interesting. So then it was his choices after that switch was flipped, and a choice led down a path that led to some sad
my
destruction.
dad gave up everything for one thing, and it's alcohol, you know, when he could have given up one thing and had everything. He chose booze over his 4 kids, you know, over and over again.
And you were the first, right?
I was the first, yeah. And then, I was in group homes, and then I didn't see my dad in years. And then he shows up with like a new family. He had a girlfriend, Lisa, and a son, Shane, and was living in Maine. And I was like, damn, this guy just totally don't need me no more, you know? And then he abandoned Shane at like 5 or 6 years old.
So it was, he had a crutch or a disease or an illness or whatever, an addiction that capped everything. And so he had that switch, that same switch internally went off for him, but there was something in his world that didn't allow him, and it's really his own choices, but to embrace that.
I mean, he did something fucking terrible like that. Like, I don't know how you could ever forgive yourself of, you know?
Right.
What
so
I
then
mean?
there's,
like
so then that being medicated, maybe like, needed to continue after the death of your mom.
I think if I were in his shoes, and my son's 3 months old right now, you know, I was 5 months old when my mom died. If I went downstairs drunk and beat my wife and she died, I'd fucking blow my brains out or hang myself in a jail cell, you know? He's lived with this for now 35 years.
Right, and had 3 other children to let the system raise. Mm-hmm. But I think that the point of my question, which was not what I thought you were going to say, was that the switch did go off inside him. So I am curious to know then does this go off for every man? When every man finds out he's going to be a father, is there something instinctually that goes off inside them that because we don't see that. We don't talk about that. It's very clear. A woman's pregnant. You see her transform over 9 months. You see her go through an amazing birth, and then you see her possibly nurse the baby. And then, I mean, it's very clear there's this rite of passage for a woman. in hearing what you said, I believe that to be true for men as well. I mean, I saw it in you.
It's different. It's different in the way, like, when I found out she was pregnant, like, I was on fire. I was so stoked. Couldn't wait to tell everybody, but that candle kind of burns out, it kind of dims out after the excitement.
Why do you think that is?
Because 9 months is a long time.
Do you think it's because you don't know what your role is? Do you think that it's because you don't know what to do?
I really don't know. I'd have to have another kid to answer that, to compare it to,
Yeah.
I've only got the one, so I don't really know, but I know that for sure I was on fire. And then for a while, I mean, not that I wasn't still stoked, but it's just like, yeah, my wife's pregnant, And then it's like go time and baby's here. And then it's like the most amazing thing ever, Yeah. And then you go through the ups and downs, like baby screaming and crying, and you don't have a tit, bro. You're not shutting him up. Like Kim left for Bible study one Monday at 5:30, and that baby screamed, Bodhi screamed from 5:30 till 7:45, and she walked in the door at 7:50, and a baby sound asleep, and she comes home, it's all peace and quiet, but it was just chaos for,
How do you feel in that? I mean, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of screaming, it's tough.
It's really tough, man. It's really tough. You're just like, it's the only thing he knows how to do,
Right.
is like cry. And at that point he was like a month old, and I'm like, you don't want the bottle. I'm standing, I'm sitting, I'm trying everything, and I'm like, nothing works, but mom in 1 second can shut him up with some titty action,
Probably shut you up too, huh?
Yeah, it works.
Okay, so you've mentioned this word security a few times, and I think that, a lot of dads, when you ask them, what's the role of the father, the idea of provider and protector comes to surface. And you said, as soon as you found out she was pregnant, you wanted to prepare for that. Okay, what's a car that still gives me the identity I'm looking for, but is a safe car? So you get a Ford Raptor, right? It's
not identity, but I like fast shit. I like to have fun. I'm not trying to get a minivan.
That's who you are.
Yeah,
right?
That's who I am. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about provider and protector and how you see that play out. And you said it a few times in security, bringing them to a safe home and stuff like that. And then I want to give you some thoughts I have and see what you think.
Yeah, I just think, a sense of security is calmness, like he's coming home not just to a house that has the 4 walls and a roof, he's coming home to a house that, like, through the whole entire pregnancy, mom and I keep very chill vibes, like we live in the mountains. We got a creek running through the backyard. Our house is a cabin. We like play good music. We have artwork, like it's security in knowing that there's comfort in the home, and it's not just coming home to a house that has money and there's food in the fridge and the bills are paid, but that my son is not scared because mom and dad are arguing and fighting, and not scared because dad comes home from work in a bad mood or just burned out, and you don't know what buttons are going to push. That's the security I'm talking about, to where my son feels secure in his home. And he might not know yet, but soon he will, and it's got nothing to do about the money and all the other shit that people might think security has to do with. It's knowing that, like, he feels secure in this home because of the relationship and the foundation that mom and I have worked on, and we worked especially on through the pregnancy. Like, there's times where we're like, we're married, we're gonna argue, and shit gets heated, and you want to raise your voice, but I'm like, hey, our son's in there, and he is vibing on everything that's going on around us right now. Like, let's take some time, put on some good music, chill, we'll come back, we'll talk, and then even like through here, like we had an argument the other night, but it was like 3:00 in the morning, baby was screaming, and I don't know what happened. I woke up and said something that pissed her off, and we went back and forth, and then I just went downstairs and gave her some space and came back up, and that was the end of it. We didn't talk about it again the next day. It was all water under the bridge. We probably don't even remember what the hell we said, but you know, and that'll happen from time to time. But the word security to me is that there's no chaos in this house, you know?
Man, I think everything you said is so powerful. And any dad listening, whether you're about to be a dad, you're a new dad, or you've got kids, your job and that, security could fall kind of in the middle of provider and protector. But I love the word you used, calmness. You used the word chill vibes. You used the word not a chaotic home, chaos. There's not chaos here. Dude, that is your job. Your job is to provide a home of stability. Yeah, and that's some hard ass work, dude.
Dude, it is.
To not come home as a dickhead after a long day of work, whether you said at the very beginning you don't love your job.
I hate my fucking job. And there's out there thinking about owning a plumbing business, think again, dudes.
Yeah, but everybody shows up to a job, and some of us love it, but it doesn't have to be the thing that gives us all the things we desire as men, the value, the respect, the love, that we're leaving a mark.
I know great fathers that hated every day of the job they work, but they worked the same job for 40 years and now are retired with $1 million in the bank and, $1 million house that's paid off, and their kids are happy. And it was because of dad who went up and freaking did what he hated to do every day. But in a way, you're providing for your family. You're not doing it for yourself anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked our grandfather, do you like your job? I think that would have been a foreign question to them at that time. Like, do you like your job? What do you mean? I go to my job because I am providing for my family.
Well, he did women's hair, so I'm pretty sure he liked his job.
Yeah, but you think about most grandfathers out there in the age they lived in, where it was the factory job, the company job.
Yeah, well, he was in the war.
Worked for 50 years at the same spot. Now, I do think that today you find dads a bit more engaged with their children than you did 50, 60 years ago.
Well, back in the day, like not even that long ago, 100 years ago, if your dad was a farmer, you were a farmer. Very few people didn't follow in their family's footsteps on what they did. If your dad worked as a cobbler and did shoes, you know what? You were probably going to be a cobbler too. And now we just have so much opportunity where you can really be whatever you want. It sounds cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, it's pretty true. So then why are you a plumber still?
Dude, why am I a plumber still? Well, a few reasons. I found it really hard working with youth to pay a bill to actually make an income. And that was probably a lot to do with my network. And probably the main part is it allows me a lot of freedom, and it makes me a fair income, good. I'm not balling, but I'm not broke, and I have I have a good amount of free time to make my schedule and do what I want. But it's the fact that I'm still doing it and probably bitch about it every day. I just haven't. I'm comfortable, I guess, and going out and doing something different is uncomfortable, and I like being comfortable.
Yeah. So how, when you are not in love with your job, do you come home and still create a calm, non-chaotic home?
Dude, it's easy to leave it at work, most of the time. Sometimes I get the late night calls and the text messages, and the people haven't had a kitchen in a week because they were remodeling and they have to have it now. And sometimes it does get frustrating, and I get a little short on patience. But for me, it's really easy.
So let me ask this.
Okay.
Is because I see you adore your wife. So even pre-Bodhi, I see that you adore your wife, Kimmy.
Yeah.
So even when you're coming home, I get the sense that you're excited to come home and see her. And
dude, yeah,
so why is that? Because I don't know that every dude feels that way, because I think they've allowed bitterness or comparison to get in. It's like when you're like, she didn't haul a toilet up, 10 flights of stairs today, or, whatever. So how do you come home and you still have this adoration for her, you choose to see her in a certain light.
I think a lot of it is transparency, like her and we don't really have secrets from each other, and if something's on our mind, we talk about it, because...
How do you approach her to talk about something?
Man, it's just so naturally,
And how'd you cultivate that relationship?
We've been dating since we were teenagers.
Yeah, but so many people had that.
Yeah,
so how did you cultivate that relationship? How did you cultivate a relationship of honesty and openness?
I mean, she's still, to like this day, my best friend. So it's just like our relationship. It's like dating, being married to one of your homies, like we do, like we're on the same page with so much stuff that I don't really know if there's one thing that I can put my finger on to say like, hey, this is the key to, having solid communication. But I think just our transparency that we just...
So being transparent over a course of years and years and years.
Yeah. And then for sure picking your battles. Like there's a lot of shit that like, I'm sure I do that. I know I do that bothers her, where she's just like, it's who he is, like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to change the fact that this guy is obsessed with cars and wants to bring every damn piece of shit car home that he sees, like, I'm sure it bugs her, but she's like, well,
So do you do the same thing for her?
Oh, yeah, totally.
So what are those things that bother you? Just kidding.
Plead the fifth, bro. That's it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
No, like, she's a super loud chewer,
Oh, you can't be around anybody chewing. Okay. Okay. So we talked about your dad. We talked about that coming home and this switch that went off, provider, protector. Okay. So I asked you provider, protector, and we dug into the stability of the home. We dug into, going to work, maybe not loving what you do, but going to work and providing for the family. But there's something that you shared, and you do provide for the family, but it's not just money, it's time. So you've chosen to make time a priority.
Yeah, I did. I texted you something earlier today, 16 hours.
Yeah, and I question marked you back, and you never responded.
I'm glad you brought that up. We'll get to the 16 hours in a second. But a big, huge thing when Kim was like 6 months pregnant, I went and did, I don't know what you would call it, like a men's retreat, I guess you would say. And through the men's retreat, I got involved in this mastermind program. And I want to say that a lot of the people in the mastermind program are wealthy, like financially. And then going through it, I saw a lot of stuff in there, or people talking about how dedicating time to their family is important, But then I started to hear the numbers on how much time these people set aside to dedicate to their families. And it was... not to shit talk anybody, because everybody's busy and has lives, but 5 minutes in the morning to dedicate to play with your kids, and 20 minutes at 30 minutes when you get home to sit and talk with your kids is bullshit. Somebody said to me today, if you had 7 days to live, what would you want to go do? And my initial answer was go surfing. I got 7 days to live, man. I'm going to go surf, And then he's like, you only got 16 hours a day. So it's not 7 days, it's 16 hours a day. And typically that is how long we're awake for, 16-hour average. And it really made me think like, what, and this is new to me because this concept just came to me today, but that 16 hours, how do I want my 16 hours to look? And it's not giving my best energy to my job, so where I come home and I'm so stoked for that 20 minutes that I get to spend with my son before it's bedtime, and then I have to go back to the office and do estimates and invoicing and all that. It's more like spending that 20 minutes on work every day, and then 15 hours and 60 or however, whatever the math works out, 15 hours and 20 minutes,
40.
Get to spend with your son. Yeah, I'm not a very good at math, guys.
But you spend a bunch of time with your kid.
Yeah, but I spent a bunch of time with my kid. Like today I went and did a job. I had a job at 8 o'clock. I went and did it. Kim had a meeting at 10 o'clock. I was home. Hung out with my son for like a couple hours, chilled out, went back to work, did another job, came home, hung out with my family, had dinner on the kitchen floor, and the son was on the carpet and played guitar while I ate a bowl of noodles and not like a bowl of pasta and just a simple dinner, man. And it was the best night chilling on the kitchen floor.
Most your days look like that though, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Sorry, everyone out there.
No, don't be sorry. Lead by example.
I sometimes feel bad about it, but I've set myself up to where I can live simply, dude. Like I have a mortgage payment and I have a car payment, and that's the debt that I have. And even that I'm uncomfortable with, like I don't like like a lot of people are credit rich and cash poor, and, I choose to be different, and I'm 35 years old. I've never had a credit card, and it has been a blessing and a curse. I can't buy shit. It's tough when I want to go finance something because I haven't established credit by accumulating debt, which is so weird to me, the concept of how they want to do loans. But anyways, I just have set myself up to where I don't necessarily need to like do the day-to-day hustle of 10-hour days and 50-hour work weeks and all that.
Yeah, so when you go back to the providing piece, so Paul, who's providing, you've chosen to provide calmness, stable home, and one in which you spend a significant amount of your 16 hours with your children, with your child and your wife. And it sounds as though when you take that 7-day period, you're not saying, okay, well, my 16 hours on Saturday and Sunday, those are the days that are primarily for the family.
Yeah, man, that's just crazy to me, dude.
It's difficult, man. I mean, I spend a lot of time right now.
Yeah.
Grinding and working on my businesses.
Yeah, I look at our Uncle Mike, and he's 52 now, I think, and he's just retired. He owned a plumbing business for probably 30 years, and when I was growing up, I'd spent a lot of time with him, and time is one of our most valuable things that we have to give. It is our most valuable thing we have to give, we'll never get it back. And the time that I got to spend with Michael was constantly robbed by phone calls or running into people he knew or having to go look at this job, and he had to hustle and grind. I get it. But growing up, I told myself I didn't never want to be that, that guy who is so distracted, but because I have this career that is now turned into a company with employees and all that. So I'm trying to get out of it So
then what's the flip side to it? So you've talked about the good clearly, right? So what's the flip side? So to play devil's advocate, the guy who's grinding out, spending 50 hours a week building this business, you're spending 20, 25 hours maybe? 30?
Yeah, I don't even want to say out here, but yeah, probably less than that, man.
Okay. So where's the downside?
I hope none of my customers listen to this, because as far as they know, I'm working 80 hours a week, man.
Yeah, because you have a perception of a business, and it's your business. You can run it how you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's the flip side, right? So you have something where you're building something, but it is really a lifestyle business for you. You got the guy who's working 50 hours thinking he's, going to have college and weddings and retirement paid. So is there a downside to the path that you're choosing? Or
yeah. So I feel like I've kind of plateaued at this point with my business to where I have two choices. I either completely stop doing it, or I scale it and make it sellable.
But why can't you go in the middle? Why does it have
There's
to
no
be the
middle
two?
ground. Like if I'm gonna go and make myself any busier, it's like you go all the way, because I'm not gonna do the fucking chaos of running a service plumbing business to just go a little bit more than where I'm at now.
And be the guy who's working
Yeah,
80 hours a week, just
exactly. Because
grinding.
I'll be that guy that's working 80 hours a week, and then trying to find employees where we're at has proven to be very difficult. Either everybody is got their own business, or they don't want to work. I don't
Make
know.
more off unemployment right now.
They make more off unemployment, and a lot of people grow dope up here where we're at, so that they make good money doing that as well. But yeah, so I'm at this point in my business where it's like, okay, take it to the next level, hire a secretary, hire office manager, hire some journeyman plumbers, buy vehicles, and it just, none of it sounds appealing to me, because I've worked for the past 5 years to have a leisurely lifestyle. You know, I wanted to retire at 40, that was my goal, and then baby. So I think I still can retire at 40, but I'm going to have to figure out a different game. This isn't good for my body. You know, this job beats me up, jacked my back up today. And mentally it's tough, man. Like I love people and I like helping people, but a lot of times I just don't care so much about people's problems or their leaky shower or their faucet or whatever needs to be done, or people don't have any money and they're doing their 10th remodel on their house on a budget.
Right, but at this point, the trade-off for you is, say, 20 hours of your week to make a good enough income that you can spend 60 hours with your family and provide a home and have very little debt.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what a good enough income actually is.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's like, you go look at the median income, but then you look at the credit card debt, right? Most people spend 110% of what they make because they could go borrow.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what do you base that off of? What's the lifestyle you want? But I think that's a fantastic question, because you're asking, like, what do I want to give my son? Whereas if you live on a street and you're comparing to what everybody else, and everybody else is just like, I cannot stand driving down a suburban neighborhood, or any neighborhood for that matter, and seeing 6 basketball hoops. I'm like, what? That makes zero sense to me.
In one yard?
No, in like every neighbor has their own basketball hoop.
Yeah, like why don't the kids play together?
Yeah, like
anymore?
what happened to the basketball court at a park on every, just around the corner, and we would all go play together. It's like, oh, Johnny across the street got a basketball hoop, I need one. It's like, it just is so strange to me. But my point in asking you this...
Keeping up with the Joneses, man. It's exactly what it is,
Yep. So then how do you choose that lifestyle now that you have a son, 3 months old, and you have conversations with your wife? What's the life that we want to provide? How do you keep it simple? How do you keep it in that state without it being about keeping up with the Joneses?
Well, that goes into like number crunching. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. One thing that's Kim and I have always talked about is when we do have kids, raising them by the beach. So, a weird enough thing is we've talked about moving to Hawaii since we started dating. Like, just let's run away and move to Hawaii. And we always talk about it. And then, but now that we have a son, we've been talking more and more about, moving towards the coast.
So talk to me about that as far as like keeping a simple life.
Yeah. Sorry, we got a little distracted. So a simple life to me is, dude, no mortgage, man. Like getting out of my mortgage. I don't owe that much on my house, but I feel like with interest and fire insurance and all this crap, like.
Why do you think most people have just accepted that a car payment and a mortgage payment is something they will always have?
Because it's easy. It's easy. It's consistent. People get content in where they're at. Like I know, like Kim's dad just sold his house. He's owned for, I don't even know, like 30 years. And he still had a mortgage on it. 30 years later, he's borrowed against it. That's just how people live. It's like, I don't know, man. I was raised like if you wanted something, you saved for it and you bought it.
Who taught you that?
My grandpa, you know?
Did they have their house paid off?
Yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, they bought that house for probably $50,000 or $60,000.
I think they bought it for 40 grand in
40
like,
grand,
yeah,
yeah.
They had it for like 60 years or something
Yeah,
crazy.
and they sold it for $770. Yeah. Crazy, yeah. But I mean, now, I mean, back then it's like, dude, you pay off a $50,000 house. Like, that sounds easy. You know, like how many months do I need to do that? But now it's like $250,000 is what I owe. My house is probably worth $5. So there's 250 grand in equity sitting there. But where we live, I can't sell my house and go pay cash for something. But in Hawaii, I could sell my house and pay cash for something pretty easily. And that, to be able to live by the ocean, raise my family by the beach, surf daily, that's my church, you know, and I moved 3 hours from the beach. So that's like been really difficult for me to be up here, to where like in the wintertime I go through depression because it's like, it's cold, it's rainy, it's shitty, the beach is 3 hours away. Several times I've gone down there to catch surf and it's just flat and dead, and then I get home and the next day it's just cranking, you know, and you just made like a 6 hour round trip drive to go get some waves and there's nothing, and then you're home looking at the swell and it's like, son of a bitch, you know, should have hung out another day. So
there's some big ahas that I want to just like recap before we wind down here. Is one, you didn't let your story dictate the dad you were going to be. Yeah, maybe it delayed your timing in having a child.
Oh, I think it dictated the dad I'm going to be.
How so?
For sure, but in a positive way.
So how did you choose that? Because you're drinking a beer right now. You're still, you know, so, but you haven't allowed those things to rule over you.
That beer is no alcohol in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Sam Adams.
Oh,
St.
beautiful.
Pauli girl. I don't know. I mean, let's see. I feel like, well, I got drunk like maybe a month ago. I got drunk one night. Everything fine. Nothing crazy went down. I just got drunk probably I think I was with Kim's dad, got drunk, woke up hungover, and was like not feeling good. And I'm holding a screaming kid with a hangover. It was the most miserable fucking thing I could think of doing. Like, you know, you've been hungover before, right? And you just feel like total dog shit. And now you have an infant screaming at you. And I found myself getting mad at the kid for crying. And I'm like, I'm only mad because I drank the night before. And in the moment.
So in that moment, how are you able to be self-aware and go, I'm the one with the problem right now? And it's not like, I'm not saying like I have a drinking problem. I'm saying I just feel sick right now. This is my doing. And then choosing to not react, but to self-reflect and make a positive decision out of that.
Man, I just feel like I was raised by a different generation that, like, there in the family I grew up in, if you were fucking up, there was no holding back on telling you were fucking up. There was no beating around the bush. If you needed an ass whooping, you were getting dragged around the corner. You're getting an ass whooping, you know, like, and not. And this isn't even from my dad. This is like, you know, from grandma and grandpa and Uncle Don. Like,
right.
So here's where I'm getting at. So when I find myself in these moments where I'm obviously at fault and at wrong, I have no problem telling myself, like, get your shit together. I don't sugarcoat stuff to myself. You know, I'm holding a baby and I'm feeling like shit and I'm hungover. It's like, yeah, you dumbass, you got drunk last night and you're a dad with a newborn, you know, like, now you're going to spend the whole day hungover and a day with your kids wasted when you don't have any do-overs, you know? And I think I heard something on your podcast with someone else where the guy said, today could be the day that your son remembers for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, dude, like that could be the day at 3 months old where he's remembering his dad hungover and shitty in a bad mood because of something dad did, you know?
Right.
So I feel like, one, having family that didn't sugarcoat shit with me when I was screwing up. Two is that carrying over to myself, to like being able to know when to check yourself. And a lot of people, you know, it's easy to make excuses. Oh, I'm just older. I'm hungover because my body doesn't handle alcohol the same way it's used to, which is true, but I still choose to
But you're
drink.
choosing not to be a victim and play
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah, exactly.
So, dude, dude, so much, man, from fathering to stability to security to how to live a simple life to choosing a simple life to our time and being aware of it and choosing what we do with our time and maybe not going for, 2x the income, going for X, but having 2x the time and making that decision, calculating the numbers. Where can I live? How do I live where I can have no mortgage, where I'm not a slave to the hourly rate that I can get out of some company? So I love these things you're talking about, and I know that it gets my mind turning, and I know it gets all the listeners and dudes out there on the adventure of fatherhood, their minds turning too. So I just want to go back for one moment as we wrap this up. Now that you are a dad, and there's this moment where you go, everything has changed now. Is there anything else on your mind or anything else inside of you that you feel like you want to share with any new dads out there as you're like right at the 3-month window where Bodhi's probably coming out of a little bit of the wild for 6 weeks? First 6 months or the first 3 months are brutal, bro.
Dude, it's gnarly, man. And then like now he's just like so aware, like it's crazy.
So tell me the first time, like I know how heavy that first 6 to 12 weeks is, but the first time what was the first thing he did where it's almost like all the hard stuff just kind of melted away?
That first time he like recognized me when I walked in the room, where like their vision's not very good. Till they're a couple months old, 2 months, like they can't hardly see. They're legally blind, like as newborns. So they hear you, but that's how they recognize you as infants, is by your voice. But when I walked in the room and he looked over, and I was just...
Come in the house talking and he turned. I come
in the house, yeah, and he just turned and he saw me and he, I wasn't talking, I just came in and he locked eyes with me and he smiled and he was like stoked his dad was home.
A smile.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, that moment I'll just have forever, like. And then just like the whole pregnancy thing, dude, like giving birth, like in that moment, dude, like a lot can happen. Your son can die, your wife can die, they both can die, like there's a lot that can go on and all these things start turning in your head and you feel helpless, and there ain't shit you can do until that baby's out, and then it's game on. It
makes you feel a little small though, huh? Like,
dude, so humbling, man. Yeah, and then humbling. Like I never prayed so hard because Bodhi got sick. Like first week or so was really rough. He wasn't eating. He was losing a bunch of weight. They were saying he had jaundice and all this shit, and it's just scary. And then, like, I don't think I ever prayed so hard in my entire life, like knees on the ground praying, and just for God to heal our baby and let the milk come in, and just like you just feel so small, like in that moment. It's like imagine surfing like the biggest day, how small you feel out there.
Oh, dude.
Times a million. Where you're like, I'm so insignificant right now that I don't even matter this much. Everything that matters is this little child being born, and
well, I think that what you said is pretty insightful to go, okay, innately there was a trigger inside me that I know I am the provider and protector of this community that is placed in my hand, my wife and my son. And when you came to a moment of feeling as though you didn't have the answer, that you turn to, I mean, for you, God, right? You turn to God to go, there's something bigger. There's something that designed this whole thing. And there comes a point where I'm not God of my world and there's something else that I need. And I think that that's the beauty of what a loving father should look like, is one who gives it all, gives everything, continues, and not in a bitchy, cry, whiny victim, but to go, God, I need you to be here with me and support me through this process.
Yeah, I feel like, we always hear, oh, God, everything happens for a reason. God has a plan, and you never seem to understand God's plan. It's always like encrypted and like, good luck figuring it out. You know what I mean? But I did. I figured it out, and it was so apparent when I did, is that my son was literally starving for like 2 weeks. We thought he was getting milk and he wasn't, and that was crazy. And it was almost like a life or death situation in a sense. And I feel like because I felt like I was so close to losing that, it made me love it so much more and cherish it so much more than I would have had things just gone smooth. If everything just went smooth, I wouldn't have had this sense of like, man, even if I got to be a dad for a week, it was the coolest thing that I had ever got to do. You know what I mean? And I had to tell myself that, because your thoughts race, man, as a man. Like, I don't know if other people are this way, but my head always goes to the worst case scenario.
Yeah, you're processing what happens if the worst happens. What do I do if the worst happens?
Exactly. And just feeling like I was just tiptoeing on the edge of life or death with my son made me love him so much. Maybe not love him so much more, but maybe realize how easy it can be taken away, and just how precious it is, and how important my role as a father is, even for an infant. Like, you think there's nothing you can do. That's not the case. There's so much you can do as a dad to a newborn, to just make a bottle or get up in the middle of the night and feed a bottle, or
support your wife, man.
Yeah, and just support your wife is like the main thing, because she just went through hell and back giving birth, and now she's 2 days out of the hospital after that. Like, I've been laid up in hospital beds for weeks at a time, and come home, and then you have months to recover from an injury.
Without a little life sucker.
Yeah, and a pocket full of pain pills, you're stoked. You're like numbed on everything. You don't have to do shit. Your wife's wiping your ass for you. When now it's quite the opposite. She just did anything gnarlier than anything I've ever gone through.
Yeah.
By choice, to do it natural. And then to come home with a prescription of ibuprofen and not even take them, and then have to now feed and nurture a child, and then to find out you're not nurturing your child. Like, for her, like, I feel like breastfeeding is such a huge bonding experience with a mother and an infant, that for her to feel like she was failing her child at that, man, like, I had seen her heartbroken like I'd never seen her before, and weeping and crying, and you know that there, in that moment, there's not a damn thing you can do besides support her and love her and tell her that she's doing everything that she can, and she's kicking ass, even though in her own head she feels like she's completely failing this child, because it's the one thing she has to do.
And the days feel so long, before you know it, a couple weeks are past and things are golden.
Yeah.
But in the moment it feels like, dude, because the days are like,
yeah, it was like
the first 6 weeks. I think as dudes listen to this, if you're having a kid, that first 6 weeks, just prep up to be the freaking man, supportive, awake, alert, prepared.
Dude, and then through the childbirth, like, no video, no book, no class, nothing you're going to do is going to prepare you for that.
Yeah.
My friend was calling me. He just had a baby. He was born the other day, and he's like, man, I just really need my friends right now. And he's reaching out to me, and by the end of the conversation, he's like, man, I called the wrong guy, dude. Like, you didn't ease my mind at all. Because I was just like, bro, you're so in for it. You have no idea.
But in a good way,
In a
dude.
good
It's
way.
wild.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, dude, you are a great dad. Every time, I mean, we're pretty close, and I know you pretty well, but you always amaze me, and you are a great dad. You're going to continue to be a great dad, and just especially, I think, and you've shown this, we just haven't said it, keep loving your wife really well, because I think that really creates that calm, non-chaotic, stable home that gives a child that safe, comfortable place to come home to and grow up in, even when the world feels crazy.
The world does feel crazy, man, but if you put your phone away and turn the TV off, it doesn't feel so crazy, man.
And I think that's a really wise statement, because although you and I talked about this the other night, although as men who go out into the workforce and women who go out in the world, we do encounter the world, and we need to be aware and not naive and be a light and play a role in making the world a great place. But your own home, you get to create what the world is. And are you on the phone, or are you listening to all the news, and are you like, your home is just as chaotic as the world outside?
Yeah.
Hell no. You create your world in your home. So what are you bringing in there?
I have to check myself constantly. And one thing that it's so sad to even say out loud, but some days I realize, like, dude, I held my phone longer than I held my son today. And that's not just one day. It's like often where I'm like, dude, I've been on my phone, whether it's work stuff or shopping for houses or cars or whatever. And, I held my son for 30 minutes, but I've definitely been on my phone for hours out of the day, So I've been checking myself lately on that. Like, dude, you want to pick your phone up and thumb through Instagram? Go hold your kid, It's way cooler than
dude, that's powerful.
Anything you're going to see on the internet,
And dude, we could end with this right here. The text I sent out this morning, every Wednesday and today was a quote by Mother Teresa. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Yep.
What another great episode. What I've learned from these podcasts is that, one, yes, life is messy for everyone, but two, if you dig in and get to know people, if you're curious and you ask questions, you will learn that there are really good people out there intentionally living their lives. I was so intrigued by learning from Paul on his view of debt, no credit cards, his intentionality and purpose around living simple, and the focus on creating a calm home. So significant, hard to do, simple, and very significant. I want to say thank you to all you dads out there listening to Rebel and Create's Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That is who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact and create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood.